Let's build the ad now in InDesign. So first I need to make a new document. So I'll choose New Document, and it's going to be a one-page, turn facing pages off. That's for multi-page documents. It's going to be 6 inches by 9 inches, and it's converting the inches to picas and points for me. So then I'm going to go down here to margins, and I want the margin to be 1 pica, 1 p, 0 points, 1 p0. So 1 p0 all the way around, and then a bleed. Now we're going to set up a bleed because I want you to have practice doing that, but you may not have a bleed in a lot of your designs. A bleed means you're going to have an image that bleeds or gets cut off the page by the printer. In newspapers, you don't see a lot of that. In magazines, you can see that, but we'll set up a bleed here. So I want you to type in 0p9, and if I hit tab, then it'll put 0 picas, 9 points in each one of these top, bottom, left, and right. So this is all set up. Click OK, and then here is my document, and you'll see here's the margin. It's this magenta line that goes all the way around, and you want to make sure to keep your text inside that margin. You don't want your text to go too close to the edge. Now here's your bleed. This is the orange line here. I'm sorry, the red outline here in the gray area. So if you have an image that's going to be cut off or bleed off the page, you want to either go to that red line or exceed it. And then if it was printed by a printer, they would cut off that edge. So we've got our document set up. The next thing I want you to do is go to View, Grids and Guides, and I want you to show your document grid. Now, this is a good grid to use to line things up. You'll learn in the InDesign class, that's GRC 144, there's different types of grids. There's layout grids with columns and rows, and they're very helpful for multi-page documents and poster designs. But in this case, we're just going to use the document grid. Now let's get our image. So I'm going to go get my pizza. I'm going to choose File. And you never choose Open with an image. You always choose Place. Make sure you always place your images in your InDesign documents. If you open it, you're going to open up the image itself and start putting text on the image. You don't want to do that. So I'll choose Place. And then I'm going to find my pizza, and then I'm choose Open, and then I can either click and then move this around where I want it. Or if I undo that, Control or Command Z, I can press, drag down diagonally to make the pizza the size that I want it to be. And you can see I'm retaining my transparency here. So with the bounding box, you learned this already, you can make it bigger or smaller. Watch out for that little donut because you're going to move that pizza inside of the box around. You don't want to do that. But you can change the fitting. You can fit the frame proportionately. You can choose fit content proportionately, fit content to frame. There's different settings on how to fit your image to the frame that you create, and you can play with that to see what works. If it doesn't work, just choose Edit, Undo, or Command or Control Z. You can also, if I grab the frame and drag down diagonally, let me move this over here to the right. I'll grab a bottom right hand corner. You can shift click or command click. Let me just here, control click, I'm sorry, I'm on a Mac, and then you can choose fitting, and here's how you can fit your content to the frame as well. So you always have a frame that your image is inside, and you can play with these settings until you get the one that works right. So that's getting the image on the page and fitting it. So I don't know if this is the size I want it to be yet. I might change that later and change the fitting, but what I am going to do is I've created layers, okay, and I have the pizza on one layer, and then banners. I'm going to create some rectangular shapes and put color in them. I've got a banners layer, and I might make a black border, and then I'm going to put my text on another layer. So I've made these 4 layers, and I did that just by clicking on the New Layer button, and then that's here at the bottom of the Layers palette, and then here's my layer, and if you double click on the layer name, then you can give the layer a name. And then layers have a stacking order, and you can change the stacking order by grabbing that layer and dragging it below or dragging it above. So you can change the stacking order of layers, and you can lock layers. So I can click in this area here to lock layers, and I can hide and show layers. Right now I don't have anything in here, but let's see, my pizza is actually on my text layer. Okay, this is a great thing I need to show you. My pizza is on my text layer. I can click on it and I can see it has this green border. Each layer has a different color that tells you what is on what layer. So this pizza has a green border, and I put it on the text layer by accident. So I needed to click on the pizza layer to when I placed the image to make sure it was on that pizza layer. So to get the pizza onto the pizza layer, while the pizza is selected, I have the green border around it. You'll see that green little square. That tells me that that pizza is selected. It's on that layer. I can drag that square down and put it on this red layer. See how it's turned red? It says pizza. Now the pizza is on that bottommost layer. So if I hide it, you'll see it's hidden and now it's shown. So you have to select the item, and then you can take this little square box and move it up and down to place it on different layers. Let's talk about putting other items on the page. Let me just move this out of the way. I can even hide it. And I'll lock that layer so I don't add anything to that layer. I'm going to make some banners. So here's where the shape tools come into play. So down here, there's a rectangle tool, ellipse tool, and a polygon tool. And so if I get the rectangle tool, I can click and drag to create a rectangle. So I've created a rectangular shape by, let me undo that again. I'll click, press down with the mouse button, and with the mouse button down, drag out this rectangular shape. And then I can play with the fill colors here. So let's just say I want it to be red, okay? And I could play with the stroke colors. So I can make the stroke green. I'm thinking pizza, Italian colors. So now I have, let me click away, I have a red fill and a green stroke. You can't see the stroke, but if I go up here, here's my stroke, to the right is the point size of the stroke. So I can make it thicker or smaller, thinner. So I could create a shape like this. Let me just move my layers. I can collapse this. I can make this shape smaller. I could have it fill the whole frame. So it could take up the entire design if I wanted a background. If I just want a fill but no stroke, then I choose a stroke of none. If I want, let me just say I want the stroke to be green, and I want a fill color of none. Now I have a green stroke. Now it's down to 1 point. I can make it bigger. So here's how you could create an outline or a border on your page. Incidentally, if you hit the W key when you have nothing selected, so click away, if you hit the W key, you can see what your artwork's going to look like. Like this is way off. Let me move this in here. And then if I hit the W key again, I can see all of my outlines and my grid, my document grid. So the W key on the keyboard allows you to hide and show it shows you how it's going to print is what it's doing. So let me hit W again, put that back. So that's a way to create a border, which was simply by creating a shape. I could make the border black. If I change my mind, let me click on that, and I'll choose black. You don't ever want to choose registration. And now I have a black border. So I can create another shape. What if I wanted maybe a circle? I could create a circle. And let's just say I want it to be filled with red. But I want no stroke. I do not want an outline. So you want a stroke of none. Then here's my red circle. And you guys, I hesitate to show you, but I will. If you wanted to do something like a drop shadow, you could go to the FX, go to drop shadow, and then if I bring this window over here, I can see I'm adding a drop shadow. And I'm not going to get too deep into this, but you can choose different, like here's the drop shadow here. I can change the angle of the drop shadow, and I can change the opacity of the drop shadow. I want you to be really cautious about what you add, though. I don't want you to add too many things. I'm going to hit OK, and there's the drop shadow there. So that's adding shapes to the page. Again, I can also change the opacity. So right up here where it says 100%, I could just drag it down and change the opacity of that shape. So a lot of times you'll see designs, I'm going to hit delete and get rid of that. You'll see a design or an ad that has, let me get a rectangular tool here, that has just part of the design has a color behind it, maybe even like 3/4 of the way down. It might have red in it. then the rest of the ad might be white, or vice versa. It could have an image up here, and then at the bottom it could have text. But that's how you create a shape with a color inside of it, is you have to use the shape tool. Okay, so here's the ad I built out, and what is it? It's a call to action ad. And you'll see I have these rectangular shapes that I filled with color. And then each line of text is its own item. See how I can move them separately? So that was to help me to be able to move them around so I can line them up precisely. Instead of creating one text frame by getting the type tool and click drag down and type one big text frame, which I didn't want to do, I made separate text frames so that I could move each item around separately and align things precisely. So I played with the tracking, leading, and kerning of each item, and I aligned everything using the grid. So each one of these is a separate item, a text item, even down here at the bottom. So you want to think about that when you're putting your text on the page. How can you group it into different text, lines of text, and how can you work with alignment, and then if you'll notice the top part of this, the entire ad, the top part is just half off Pizza Fridays with the image of pizza, and then all the pertinent information like where we are, our address, phone number, email, whatever. It's all down here on the bottom part of the page. So I want you to take that into consideration when you're building your ad, how you're going to line it up, how you're going to get the text on the page, and make sure you put it in the text in its own text frames so that you can move it around and make it look really nice. Let me just demonstrate getting text on the page again. We did this in a previous video, but let's just do it again. So here's the type tool, press down, drag down diagonally, and I'm going to type in pizza. Okay, and let me just go ahead and select the whole thing by dragging through it or triple clicking. I can go up to the point size, make it 72, or I can click inside this window, hit the up arrow, and make it as big as I want. And let's say I want it really big. So now I've got it very big, and now I can't see the whole thing because my text box is not big enough to show all the text. I see this little red plus sign. So let me go to this tiny little square on the bottom, right below the red X, and pull this box out so I can see the whole thing. So remember to recolor it, you can triple click over it. I'm still on the type tool, so let's say I want to make it red, and then if I want to change the I can go and change the tracking up here, and I want to make it closer together, maybe even closer, maybe a little farther apart. You don't want those letters to touch. And if I wanted to rotate the text, I could select it with the black arrow and reach outside, like the top right hand corner when I see that angled arrow, and I can rotate it. One last thing I want to show you is I just created this rectangular shape, and it's on the same layer as my text pizza. If you aren't using layer and you just want to play with the stacking order, I can select the item, then I can go to Object, Arrange, Send Backward or to Back. So if I send it to back, then it's going to go behind the text. So Object, Arrange, there's Bring to Front, which will bring it to the front of a stack of things. Bring Forward, if you think about a stack of cards, it will bring it forward one level. Send to Back will send it all the way to the back. Send Backward will send it backward one level.